Good evening and welcome to the January 24, 2023 regular meeting of the Gaston County Board of Commissioners. My name is Chad Brown and I serve as chairman of the board as well as commissioner of the Riverbend Township. I would like to welcome our viewers and thank Spectrum, Cable, and AT&T for making this possible for our citizens. For our television audience and live streaming audience, I would like to present our county commission beginning on my far right.
Alan Fraley, Cherville Township.
Ronnie Worley, South Point Township.
Kathy Cloninger, Dallas Township.
Bob Hovis, Crowders Mountain Township.
Good evening, Tom Kieger, Gastonia.
Also Commissioner Johnson.
Good evening, Kim Johnson, Gastonia Township.
She has joined us via teleconference tonight. So hello, Commissioner Johnson. At this time, if you'll please rise for the invocation given by Commissioner Worley and the Pledge of Allegiance given by Commissioner Cloninger.
Please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. Deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Catholic version is a little different. The Catholic version is a little different.
Tonight's agenda, the first item is proclamations, commendations, awards, certificates. I will now call on Commissioner Kieger to do the proclamation to proclaim the month of February 2023 as Black History Month in Gaston County. As Commissioner Kieger presents himself with Ms. Pearl Burris-Floyd, please, and Mr. Meeks, please come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. It's with great pleasure that I get to do the proclamation regarding Black History Month, especially here in Gaston County. And with me is Pearl Burris-Floyd, one of our former commissioners, and Mr. Meek is here to join her. And no? Okay. Whereas February is Black History Month and is recognized throughout the United States as an opportunity to celebrate the historical and present achievements and contributions made by African Americans to the economic, cultural, and political development of our great country, the state of North Carolina, and all our local communities. Whereas Black History Month's early origins began in February 1926, when Negro History Week was established by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a Harvard scholar and son of former slaves. Dr. Woodson launched an initiative to encourage the study of Black history and the African American experience in the United States. He chose February because it marked the birthdays of President Abraham Lincoln and the abolitionist Frederick Douglass. And whereas Dr. Woodson's legacy influenced the eventual shift from Negro History Week to the month-long celebration later to be established in the mid-1970s, and celebrated thereafter as Black History Month. And whereas this year marks the 59th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, which was proposed by President John F. Kennedy in 1963 and eventually signed into law during the height of the American Civil Rights Movement in 1964 by President Lyndon Johnson. The legislation prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and paved the way for future anti-discrimination legislation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners, in commemoration of this nationwide celebration, hereby proclaims February 2023 as Black History Month in recognition of the many contributions of African Americans to Gaston County, North Carolina, and the nation at large in the ongoing pursuit of equality and human rights for all citizens. And this will be adopted late in our meeting. And I will present this to Dr. Floyd and Mr. Mick. Okay, who's going to speak? Both?
To the Gaston County Commission, this is indeed a pleasure for me to stand here and to acknowledge what you are doing tonight. You have done this before and it is greatly appreciated. I am extremely happy to have with me tonight the chairman of the Gaston County Veterans Council, Mr. Michael Meeks. He didn't want to talk tonight, but he said he would stand with me. And as long as we do things together, we're going to make it. Everything's going to be all right. So as we look forward to celebrating Black History Month starting February 1st, we hope that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department will have some good things for you to see and to observe. We're honoring local unsung heroes. These are individuals who continue to do work, and they're really the glue that holds the county together. They never come up for recognition. So in conjunction with the Communications Department, we're going to honor about 5 individuals from across the county. So look forward to that coming out next week. And thank you again for your vision, your generosity, and for the recognition of Black History Month. And we thank you.
Thanks, Earl. Okay. Picture?
Sure.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
The next item on the agenda is public hearing. The commission will now take citizens' comments on 9 public hearings. Comments will be taken for the following issues: zoning map change REZ-099, zoning map change REZ-128, zoning map change REZ-129, zoning map change REZ-131, zoning map change REZ-132, zoning map change REZ-133, zoning map change REZ-134, zoning text amendment text-006 and 007. Before we begin, let me outline the rules and procedure of the hearing. Citizens wishing to make comment will be recognized by the chair, then requested to step to the microphone for their comments. Citizens will state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes tonight. All questions shall be directed to the chair for response. The chair shall rule on all points of order. Do I hear a motion to go into the closed hearing? Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Worley. All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. We are now in public hearing. The County Commission will now take comments on public hearing zoning map change, REZ 099, Jan and Barbara Vakulik. I'm sorry, I'm gonna not very good at that one. Vakulchik? Look at there. Doing business as VF Ventures LLC is the applicant. I will now call on Ms. Jamie Kimberlou, Director of Planning and Zoning, Building and Development Service, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Kimberlou.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. REZ-22-02-24-00099 is a general rezoning request from Jan and Barbara Vasulchik. Is that right? Okay. For parcel ID 308825. The property is located at 1558 Stanley Lucia Road in Mount Holly and is approximately 1.3 acres. The applicants are requesting to rezone their parcel from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District with the U.S. overlay to the I2 General Industrial Zoning District with the U.S. overlay. This first map shows that the property is located in the Riverbend Township just east of Stanley and north of Mount Holly. The orthophoto map shows the existing structure on the subject parcel. The parcel is surrounded by residential properties and wooded areas. The picture on the bottom shows the existing building that is being used as a machine shop. The subject property was purchased by the applicant in 1987, and the structure was placed on the lot in 1988. When zoning was placed on the property, it received the standard R1 zoning district, which was placed on a majority of the county, and this made the lot and its use a non-conforming situation. Zoning in the area is heavily residential with scattered commercial zoned properties. Earlier last year, back in 2022, the applicant purchased additional land from neighboring property as they found out their septic tank was not within the original property lines. After purchasing additional land, they went through the recombination process to create one new, larger lot. They have been doing everything they can to bring this lot into compliance. I also wanted to make a note about your staff packets. There is a comment letter from the MPO in the staff packet with the parcel ID on it that is actually the old parcel ID. When they recombined and got the additional land, the parcel ID changed, so I just wanted to make that note for the record. This map shows which neighbors were notified with information about the public hearing with you all tonight. Staff did receive one call from the neighbor who the applicants purchased additional land from, and they were calling to confirm what their rezoning request was for. This parcel is in Area 3 of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan and has the Rural Future Land Use designation. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with farmstead housing and opportunities for agribusiness. Key issues for citizens in this area include the preservation of open space, road improvements, better connectivity to other areas of the county and throughout the region, increased job opportunities, maintaining the rural feel of the area, and increased commercial opportunities. Staff finds that the application is consistent with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of this request as well. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any comments from the applicants at this time? Seeing none, are there any comments from any citizens on this issue? Seeing none as well, are there any from the Board of Commissioners? Seeing none there, I will now declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board was unanimous in recommending approval of this zoning map amendment change as being consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Motion made by
accept the
Commissioner Kieger to
planning board's
accept the planning board's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. All, any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Is unanimous, Madam Clerk. I will now ask Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide the consistency statement?
Yes, sir. This proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan, as it will maintain the rural feel of the area while increasing commercial opportunities, which meets key goals for this area. The rural future land use designation envisions open space with opportunities for agriculture, agribusiness ventures.
Thank you, sir. The county commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 0128. Appaloosa Real Estate Partners LLC is the applicant. I will now ask Jamie Kimberlou, the Director of Planning and Zoning, Building and Development Service, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Kimberlou.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. REZ-22-09-15-00128 is a general rezoning request from Appaloosa Real Estate Partners. The request is for parcel ID 192178 and a portion of parcel ID 192169. The parcels are owned by Harbor Inn and Brevard LLC, and they are located on South Point Road in Belmont. The applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 6 acres from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District with the US, SV, and CH overlays to the C3 General Commercial with US, SV, and CH overlays. Our first map shows that the subject parcels are located in the southeastern part of the county in Belmont. This is an aerial image of the parcels. If approved, the applicant would need to work with a surveyor to combine the parcels so that there is not a property line running through the site. The proposed zoning line goes right up to the right-of-way on the western side of the property. A copy of the survey is included in the staff report for this case. This map shows that the subject lots are undisturbed and surrounded by commercial uses and structures. You can also see some residential homes to the south of the property. This is the current zoning of the subject and surrounding properties. The subject property is zoned R1, and then the properties to the north, south, and east are zoned commercial. The I3 zoned property to the east is Duke Energy's Plant Allen Station. The commercially zoned properties in the area consist of many warehouses, landscape businesses, essential services, and a convenience store. The future land use designation for this area is suburban development. This land use is classified as commercial pockets surrounded by residential homes. This would be an example of a natural commercial pocket on South Point Road. This slide shows which property owners were notified with information about tonight's public hearing. Staff has had 3 inquiries about this request. All 3 asked for general information about the request. Staff finds that the application as requested is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. The future land use for this area is suburban development, which consists of significant residential areas that exist around commercial pockets. Suburban centers are larger than rural centers and tend not to serve a significant civic or commercial purpose aside from the immediate neighborhood needs. No comments were received from the TRC aside from the MPO. A copy of the MPO's comments was included in the staff packet. There are no funded transportation improvement projects on the STIP. However, there is a proposed but unfunded improvement to South Point Road on the CTP. There is also a proposed widening improvement project on South Point Road on the MTP. This is also an unfunded project. The CTP also shows bike facility improvements along South Point Road. The Planning Board did recommend approval of this request at their meeting earlier this month, and we do have the applicant here for a presentation as well. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments from the applicant?
You want to come up?
Good evening. My name is Josh Wilkes. I'm with Appaloosa Real Estate Partners. Just wanted to go through a little overview on us. We're a real estate investment and development firm based in Charlotte. We develop apartments, townhomes, and self-storage.
Can you please just put the address of the company just for the record, please? You're all right. Just for our record, thank you.
2820 Selwyn Avenue, Suite 618, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28209.
Thank you.
This is an overview of the property. Jamie did a great job highlighting what's around it, but that's also what I wanted to discuss. We're surrounded by commercial uses. Adjacent to the property and across the street and have industrial behind it. We're asking for a C3 rezoning. We're focused on low traffic uses to serve the nearby residents, such as self-storage or flex space. We've actually found that a number of our tenants are actually commercial users, and they like having flex space or storage space. Just because of the nature of it, it's month to month. You don't have to sign a long-term lease, and also allows them the ability to expand their business and take on additional space as needed versus being locked into something over a long period of time. The future land use of the property is suburban development. So we feel like this particular parcel being surrounded by pretty heavy residential is in line with that use being commercial. This is an example of some of the work that we've done locally and throughout the state of North Carolina. We're under construction on a 3-story self-storage project in Charlotte. We have a 72,000 square foot project just outside of Asheville right now. And we have actually operated property in Gastonia, Glen Storage Center. But these are just other examples of what we've done and what we've owned. And yeah, just really appreciate your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Are there any citizens wishing to comment on this matter at this time? Please step to the podium, name and address for the record, please, sir.
Hi, my name's Tyler Murphy. I'm at 721 South Forest Lane, Belmont, North Carolina, 28012. I only had one question as to how far the actual structure is going to be built off the road. My business is currently beside it, and I just wanted to know how much is going to be blocked as you're coming down the road.
That answer probably come from behind you, sir, I would assume.
So if the rezoning is approved, it would most likely be a 50-foot front setback because it's on the CH overlay. Does that help?
There would also have to be some type of structure for cover as well, correct?
Yes, there will probably be screening because it's in the US overlay as well.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes.
If you have any other questions, you can also email
Okay.
as well. So I just want you to be aware of what you can do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments from citizens at this time? Yes, ma'am. Please step to the podium. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Miller. I'm located at 2323 South Point Road, directly across from the proposed zoning. My question is, are we preparing for a turn lane? And if so, do we have any idea which side of the road that it would be for a turn lane in? And since Mr. Murphy just asked the question, how far back would be at 50 foot? That doesn't seem to be very much, because there is at this time no area to pull in and out of that zone property.
Jamie, would you have anything for that?
Not without a site plan, I don't have a exact answer. That is something that we would have to coordinate with NCDOT because it is South Point Road. And then if, the unfortunate thing is this, because we don't have a specific use, there's no TIA requirement that we have right now, so we don't have any way to kind of predict what will be required.
I know the applicant didn't specify, but do they have a particular use that they want to talk about, or just still general usage? And that's up to you. You don't have to answer that. I mean, just sort of asking the question.
We're only considering low traffic uses.
Okay. Are there any other citizens wishing to comment at this time? Seeing none, are there any from the Board of Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned on the first one that the planning board voted unanimously. You just said that they approved it this time. Do you know the vote?
It was 6-6 unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the Board of Commissioners? If there are no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. I will now ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board unanimously recommended approval of this zoning map amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Is there a motion to approve this? Motion made by Commissioner Worley, seconded by Commissioner Fraley. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Oh,
No, I raised my hand.
okay. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 0129. Micah Justin Horton, the applicant. I will now ask Ms. Jamie Kimbergeloo, Director of Planning and Zoning, Building and Development Services, to provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Camberlu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. REZ-22-10-26-00129 is a general rezoning request from Micah Horton for parcel ID 199145. The subject parcel is located on Old Hickory Grove Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone their property from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District with the U.S. overlay to the R2 Single Family Moderate Zoning District with U.S. overlay. Our first map shows that the property is located between Ranlow and Mount Holly and just north of McAdenville. The subject property is located off of Old Hickory Grove Road. It does not have road frontage. However, if the applicant does develop this lot, they will have to show access to the lot, which we believe there is an easement on the east side of the property, and then this would be worked out during the zoning permit phase process. The aerial photography also shows a mix of residential housing types and some wooded areas to the south of the subject property. This map shows the current zoning in the area. The subject parcel is outlined in blue. There are R2 and R3 neighborhoods to the northeast of the subject property, with some C1 properties scattered throughout the area. This map shows which properties were notified with information about tonight's public hearing. Staff has not received any calls about this request. The subject property is 3.98 acres and vacant. It is located in the riverfront Gaston small area portion of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Key issues for citizens in this area include the preservation of open space, road improvements and better connectivity, increased job opportunities, maintaining the rural feel of the area, and increased commercial opportunities. The future land use designation for this area is suburban development. Suburban development areas consist of single-family residential areas that exist around commercial pockets. Comments were received from the MPO. There are no funded transportation improvement plans in the immediate vicinity on the STIP, the MTP, or the CTP. The CTP does show a recommended multi-use path along Fights Creek, which is east of the subject property. Staff finds that the application as presented is consistent with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and the Planning Board recommended approval of this request at the meeting earlier this month. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any comments from the applicant at this time? Seeing none, are there any comments from the board, from the citizens at this time? Seeing none, are there any comments from the Board of Commissioners? If there are no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board was unanimous in recommending approval of this zoning map amendment as consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion for this issue?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide a consistency statement for 0129 and or 0128 as well, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In 00129, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan, as it will maintain the rural feel of the area as envisioned for Area 3 of the riverfront Gaston area. In the matter ending in 00128, that zoning map amendment is also consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan, as the future land use in this area is suburban development. Suburban development areas consist of single-family residential areas that exist around commercial pockets. The rezoning of this property from residential to commercial is harmonious with the existing commercial zones and uses in the immediate vicinity.
Thank you, sir. The County Commission will now take zoning citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 0131 Linda Ballard Medley. I will now ask Ms. Jamie Camberlu, Director of Planning and Zoning, Building and Development Services, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Camberlu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. REZ-22-11-10-00131 is a general rezoning request from Linda Medley for parcel ID 174253. The subject parcel is located at 106 Mott Boulevard in Stanley and is just under half an acre. The applicant is requesting to rezone their property from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District to the R2 Single Family Moderate Zoning District. This first map shows that the subject property is located just north of Stanley. The aerial photography shows that the subject property is surrounded by traditional and manufactured homes. While this image does show a structure on the property, the site is vacant. The property owner pulled a demolition permit for the structure shown on the lot, and the final inspection for the demolition was completed on November 10th of 2022. Mott Boulevard is an unpaved drive that provides access to 6 lots. This map shows the current zoning in the area. The lot is surrounded by R1, which is the default zoning for the county. There is also an R2 zoned neighborhood up the road from the subject property. These are the properties that were notified with information for tonight's public hearing. The applicant for this request owns 252, 107, and 144 Mott Boulevard, along with the subject property. Only 2 notices were mailed out, and of those 2, 1 was returned, as there was no forwarding address for the property owner. Staff did not receive any calls about this request. The MPO was the only organization to provide TRC comments. There are no funded transportation projects on the STIP, the MTP, or the CTP. The location of the subject parcel is heavily residential. There's a mix of single-family, two-family, stick-built, and manufactured homes in the immediate vicinity. This property was originally in Stanley's ETJ, so it does not have a future land use designation. However, the closest future land use is rural. Staff finds that the application as presented is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, and the planning board unanimously recommended approval of this request at their meeting earlier this month. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments from the applicants at this time? Seeing none, any citizens' comments? Seeing none as well, any from the Board of Commissioners? I will declare the public hearing closed. I will now ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board unanimously recommended approval of this zoning map amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to accept the recommendation.
Motion made by Commissioner Kieger to accept the recommendation as given.
Second.
Planning board seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide a consistency statement?
Yes, sir. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan, as it will keep the property rural in nature, which is the closest future land use plan on the map and the default future land use for the county.
Thank you, sir. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 0132 Tammy Stroop, the applicant. Ms. Laura Hamilton, Land Use Coordinator, Building and Development Services, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Hamilton.
Good evening. REZ 22-11-15-00132 is a general rezoning from the owner and applicant, Tammy Stroop. The parcel ID is 208601. The location address is 1030 Garlands Creek Drive. The request is to rezone the property from R1 Single Family Limited to R2 Single Family Moderate. It is a 1.75 acre parcel. This is in the comprehensive land use area 1, rural Gaston, with the rural designation. The key issues for citizens in this area include preservation of open space, road improvements, and better connectivity to other areas in the county and throughout the region, increased job opportunities, preservation of agriculture, and maintaining the rural feel of the community, repurpose vacant buildings and facilities for new economic opportunities. The rural area designation is characterized by green, rolling hills, plenty of open space, along with farmstead-style housing, as well as agribusiness. Residential homes are located on large lots and are set back from the road that they front upon. With the next map, you'll see this is located in the northwestern region of the county, off of the Dallas-Cherville Highway on Garland Creek Drive. The location is primarily residential and wooded in nature. There are some commercial uses in the vicinity, manufactured home parks, high-tension power lines, farmland, and a variety of home styles in the area. If approved, all the allowed uses in the R2 zoning district would be permitted in accordance with the UDO. The Gaston Cleveland, the MPO comments were part of your packet. According to the 2029 STIP, there is no funded transportation improvement projects in the immediate vicinity. The application as presented is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan as staff's opinion. The planning board unanimously recommended approval. We received one call via Commissioner Cloninger on this case. The sign was posted on 1/6 of '23 and the notices were mailed out on 1/4 of '23. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any comments from the applicants on this issue? Are there any citizens' comments wish to be taken? Any from the Board of Commissioners? I will now declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Mr. Chairman, the planning board unanimously recommended approval of this zoning map amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Fraley, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide a brief overview of the consistency statement?
Yes, sir. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan as it maintains the rural characteristics of green rolling hills with plenty of open space as envisioned by the comprehensive land use plan. The proposed use also meets the goal of residential homes being located on large lots and are set back from the roads they front upon.
Thank you, sir. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 01331 Garcia. Ms. Laura Hamilton, Land and Use Coordinator, Building and Development Service, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Hamilton.
Good evening. REZ 22-11-22-00133. The applicant and the property owner is Juan Garcia. The parcel ID is 162401. The location is 105 Joe's Lane. The request is to rezone the property from I-2 General Industrial with the CH overlay to R1 with the Single Family Limited with the CH overlay. This is a 1.273 acre parcel. This parcel is in Area 2, North 321 Gaston, and in the industrial designation. Key issues for the citizens in this area included preservation of open space, road improvements, and better connectivity to other areas of the county and throughout the region, more transportation alternatives, preservation of agriculture, and maintaining the rural feel of the community, and steer development towards existing infrastructure in areas immediately surrounding towns and cities. This industrial designation is in primarily industrial manufacturing-based uses currently and projected in the future. As you see on the map, this property is located in the residential industrial commercial area of the northern region of the county. This parcel is off the Dallas-Cherville Highway at the old NC 277 Loop Road on a short road called Joe's Lane. There are industrial and commercial uses in the vicinity along with many home styles and 2 manufactured home parks. This parcel has a single wide manufactured home on it. It was then changed to a commercial use, removing the single wide in 2005. Now they are trying to change that commercial use into a residential use, while all the while the zoning has been industrial. Next to this was Cape Fear Trucking across the street, and there's also a Dollar General across Highway 279 from this location as well. If approved, any of the allowed uses in the R1 zoning district would be permitted in accordance with the zoning ordinance. This is a list of all the property owners who were notified. The MPO provided comments. There were no other TRC comments. There are no funded transportation improvement projects in the immediate vicinity of this site. A proposed unfunded boulevard improvement to the Dallas-Cherville Highway is included in the MPO's TCP. The typical cross-section for a 4-lane divided road involves a minimum of 100-foot right-of-way. The existing right-of-way along Dallas-Cherville Highway is 100 feet. The applicant is present, the application as presented is consistent with the land use plan. The planning board voted unanimously to approve recommendation. The sign was posted on 1/6 of 23, and the notices were mailed on 1/4 of 23. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments from the applicant at this time? Seeing none, are there any comments from any citizens on this issue? Any from the Board of Commissioners? I will now declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board was unanimous in a recommendation to approve this zoning map amendment as consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir.
Motion
Is there a
to
motion?
accept.
Motion made by Commissioner Keeger, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide us with a consistency statement?
Yes, sir. The proposed use is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan as it maintains the rural characteristics of green rolling hills with plenty of open space as envisioned by the comprehensive land use plan. The proposed use also meets the goal of residential homes being located on large lots and setback from the roads they front upon.
Thank you, sir. The county commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change REZ 0134 Randy Kincaid, the applicant. I will now ask Ms. Laura Hamilton, Land and Use Coordinator, Building and Development Services, to provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Hamilton.
Good evening. RAZ 22-11-28-00134 is the applicant and owner, Randy Kincaid. The parcel ID 163196 is the original parcel number when the application was submitted. Since application for subdivision has been reviewed and approved, and the new parcel numbers are 308-822, 308-821, 308-820. The location is on Acre Road. The request is to rezone from R1 Single Family Limited to R2 Single Family Moderate. It is a total of 7.34 acres. This property is in the Area 1 Rural Gaston area with a rural designation. Key issues for the citizens in this area was preservation of open space, road improvements, better connectivity to other areas of the county and throughout the region, increased job opportunities, preservation of agriculture, and maintaining the rural feel of the community. The rural area characterization is by green, rolling hills with plenty of open space along with farmstead-style housing as well as agribusiness. Residential homes are located on large lots and set back from the roads they front upon. As you see on this map, the property is located in the residential area of the northwestern region of the county on Acre Road, just off of Tryon Courthouse Road. The location is primarily residential in nature with different housing styles in the surrounding areas. If approved, any of the allowed uses in the R2 zoning district would be allowed per the zoning ordinance. The MPO provided comments. No other TRC comments were received. On this, the 2029 STIP, there are no funded transportation improvement projects in the immediate area of this site. The application as presented is consistent with the land use plan. The planning board unanimously recommended approval of this rezoning request. The sign was posted on 1/6 of 23, and the notices were mailed on 1/4 of 23. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any comments from the applicants at this time? Any citizens' comments wishing on this issue? Any from the Board of Commissioners? I will declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board unanimously recommended approval of this zoning map amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion on this matter? Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Fraley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Yes.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you please provide us with the last consistency statement?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the proposed use is consistent with the vision and goals of the comprehensive land use plan as it maintains the rural characteristics of rolling green hills with plenty of open space as envisioned by the comprehensive land use plan. The proposed use also meets the goal of residential homes being located on large lots and are set back from the roads they front upon.
Thank you, sir. As we continue with the Rolling Green Hills, we'll talk about the county commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearings, zoning text amendments, text 006. Gaston County Planning Board was the applicant. Ms. Jamie Kimbergeloo, she is the Director of Planning and Zoning, Building and Development Service, will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Kimbergeloo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Text -22-12-09-0006 is a request to expand the definition of common open space improved and add supplemental regulations for this use into the UDO. This slide shows a little bit of the background for this request. In 2021, staff presented a very similar request. However, it was accidentally left out when we repealed the UDO in its entirety and replaced it with the version that was in compliance with the 160D regulations. The purpose of this amendment is to bring back the regulations as staff needs them to be able to regulate this use throughout the county. This next slide shows what the definition was when it was proposed back in 2021. This is shown in the red text, and then what we are proposing with this amendment is in the green text. The 2021 definition felt limiting, so staff wanted to create a definition that was open enough to allow improved common open spaces to have multiple visions and uses. This amendment will also affect Chapter 7, as we will need to add in the use to the table of uses. Staff is proposing that this use be allowed in all of the residential zoning districts. This is the section that we would like to add to Chapter 8, which houses our supplemental regulations. Many of these are the same as what was proposed in 2021. However, staff did add a few additional regulations based on research and comparison to other ordinances. Items B and C were included in the 2021 text amendment, and then the other ordinances are staff recommended, and they deal with open space calculations, general safety and accessibility, and location and maintenance of improved common open spaces. Staff wanted to make it very clear that the new subdivisions in the county would be required to set aside a portion of their development to be used as improved common open space, and that those areas are to be accessible to everyone in the development and will be maintained by the residents of the neighborhood or an established homeowners association. The Planning Board did ask staff for the following clarifications when we presented this request. Open space is something that is required for all new subdivision developments. The UDO states that 1/35 of an acre for each dwelling unit proposed in a subdivision shall be set aside as open space. There is also a minimum of 2 acres of open space required for each development. Item A of this new ordinance is stating that 30% of the required open space for each development will need to be improved common open space, and at least half of that space will have to be active. Staff considers active space to be something that the residents can use for recreation. Examples include bike trails, tennis courts, swimming pools, and other types of these facilities. The other section the Planning Board members asked us to clarify was Section F. This is a regulation staff found in a neighboring zoning ordinance. The purpose of this item was to encourage developers to plan to have improved open spaces within walking distance of each proposed lot and to break up the development with open areas. This is a regulation that developers can seek relief from during the conditional rezoning process. The Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of this text amendment request at their meeting earlier this month. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments from the applicant?
No.
Did you want to comment? There's rolling green hills, I'm sure. Any citizens wishing to comment on these text amendments? Seeing none, any questions from the Board of Commissioners? If there's no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. I will now ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of this text amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the text amendments as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Worley, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Is unanimous, Madam Clerk. I'm just going to make sure that was 007, correct? Or was that 006? This is 007.
That was 6.
That was 6, okay, that's what I'll make sure. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing, zoning text amendments, text 007, Gaston County Planning Board is the applicant. I will now call on Ms. Jamie Kimberlew. She is Director of Planning and Zoning Building Development Service. Will provide a brief overview. Once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Ms. Kimberlew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You all are receiving the latest version of this text amendment. This is text-22-12-19-00007. The applicant is the Gaston County Planning Board, and the request is to add language that allows for larger accessory structures on all lots. Staff brought an amendment to Section 9.9 to the board in March of last year. That amendment has not been codified with Municode yet, so staff has asked Municode to pause on incorporating the March text amendment into the online version of the UDO, and this is the text that will replace what is currently online. While we were writing this amendment, we found several errors in sections that we needed to clean up, so it made more sense to request that this amendment, that with this amendment, we also rescind the resolution from March. If approved, the copy of the amendment we've just passed out will be what replaces Section 9.9 on Unicode. To provide a little background on this case, since March of last year, staff has processed and the Board of Adjustment has approved 8 variance requests for accessory structures. 6 of the requests dealt with the proposed location of the accessory structure. 2 of the requests asked for a structure larger than what is allowed by the ordinance, and 4 of the requests were asking for more total allowable square footage of all the accessory structures on one lot. Staff met to review the variance requests, and we are proposing the following changes to the accessory structure section of our ordinance. Currently, the review for accessory structures falls into one of 2 categories. You either have a lot that is less than 2 acres or a lot that is greater than 2 acres, and then there are different regulations for each lot size. This text amendment proposes a 3rd category that would regulate lots that are 4 acres and greater in size. Lots that are 4 acres and greater would be allowed to have 4 accessory structures in addition to a garage or carport, which is 1 more structure than what is allowed for lots between 2 and 4 acres in size. The next change we made was to increase the total square footage of all accessory structures allowed on each lot. For each category, we raised the calculation by 1%. On a 2-acre lot, a 1% increase would allow an additional 871 square feet for accessory structures. In regards to size of the accessory structures themselves, the Planning Board didn't have a problem with allowing accessory structures to be as big as the primary residential structures on the lot. So for lots that are less than 4 acres in size, instead of capping accessory structures at 50% of the primary structure's footprint, this amendment is proposing accessory structures shall not exceed the under-roof building footprint of the primary residential structure. This means if you have a 1,500 square foot home, then you would be allowed to have up to a 1,500 square foot accessory structure as long as your total square footage calculation for all accessory structures allows it. This would require at least a 30,000 square foot lot. For lots that are greater than 4 acres in size, the Planning Board felt that there didn't need to be a cap on the size of the accessory structures. The only regulation staff recommended to accompany these changes is that the setbacks for all accessory structures be increased from 5 feet to 10 feet on all side and rear property lines, as this amendment will allow for much larger structures. The height and location regulations are the same as what was proposed in March. We just took what was allowed in the lots greater than 2 acres category and extended it over for the lots that are greater than 4 acres. The Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of these changes. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a great amendment. Any citizens, or any comments from the applicant? Obviously, we talked about the green structure. Any citizens wishing to comment at this time on this issue? Any Board of Commissioners wish to? Mr. Hovis.
Mr. Chair, under item 3, item B, where it says only garages and carports may be located in the front yard as long as they are set back a minimum of 30 foot from the road right of way. With the larger lot size and being able to allow an accessory structure to equal the size of the residential structure, if you had a 3,000 square foot home on a 4,000 square foot lot, on a 4-acre lot, that's not very large. But then you can have a 3,000 square foot accessory structure that sits out in front of the house within 30 foot of the right of way. I think that any intrusion beyond the front building line of an accessory structure should be, require a special use permit, should have to be applied for, and then the cause and effect of that determined by the Planning Board or Board of Adjustments. I think to regulate it that openly, I think you're asking for an unintended consequence that this hasn't been drilled through.
So this got brought up at, when we were doing a staff
was?
review.
Good.
And it just got brought up amongst staff. Planning board didn't catch
okay.
it. But we kind of went with a 30-foot setback because that's what's required for a house.
Correct.
So if they wanted to put their house at the 30-foot front setback line, they could put it up there, and that was kind of the minimum space that they could put it.
I buy an existing home that fits this definition. It's 6 acres.
Mm-hmm.
The home is set back nicely. It has a very nice curb appeal. But I'm coming in the neighborhood and I say, oh, I can build within 30 foot of the right of way. I'm gonna put this 3,000 square foot accessory building in front of my house. That doesn't create the desired effect normally in terms of residential development, I don't think, personally. And I just wanted to ask that question, how much of that conversation was given to that. But I think it should be available as a
Special use permit.
special use or request for a variance. Variances would be allowed only by variance applicant. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Not just given by right. So that somebody's got to look at it so you don't have that kind of situation where you've got a residence's accessory use as large as the residence in front, 30 foot off the road.
So the special use permits and the variance requests are both heard by the Board of Adjustment.
Correct.
It would just be your preference of which process you would want them to go through.
Right. I'm just throwing that out as an option because I think that's
Okay.
it's a little loose.
I think
That's just my comments.
Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? I think where it hits on it's where you have some old structure on a big property of where they're in the back and all of a sudden, let's just say somebody wanted to put a gymnasium up in the front of their house. That kind of where that's going. But I do see what you're talking about. If it's going through the Board of Adjustments, is that okay with you, or do you want to try to amend that? Maybe
doesn't
we
have
can
to
work
come
on
to
that
us.
something to see how many we get to make sure, and if you guys see those, we catch them, and we can bring that in a special case to make it be noted when it comes to the Board of Commissioners to have that.
Here's a great example, a barn dominium,
Mm-hmm.
big RV, accessory building in front
In
of
the
the
front
home.
yard. The only thing I would recommend for, if we want to go that route, is to do the special use permit because the variance requires the applicant to prove some kind of hardship with the land.
Correct.
So
I agree,
would
the special use
recommend a
fits
special
better.
use permit.
But I just don't think it should just happen.
That is something we probably have to write into this amendment, though, if we were to approve it, because it would have to be written in as how we do that process for structures in the front yard.
Is there any urgency to approve this tonight?
We have some applicants waiting to apply, but
Backyard use, but I mean, I think I brought this up in November, and they started working on this from that time. But like I said, as far as what you're asking, I don't think there's a sense of urgency. I think if you want to do it loosely with the amendment for what Commissioner Hovis is talking, maybe, or unless you're talking about something totally different, Commissioner Kieger.
No, I agree with what he's saying. I just didn't know if it wasn't urgent, if we could table it to let them go back and redo the resolution.
it's completely up to y'all. And Donna.
Mr. Stetzer.
Mr. Chairman, if you would allow a break of 10 minutes, I think we could probably have the resolution changed to satisfy the questions that came up, and we could take care of it this evening if that's your pleasure.
Would you be able to do that if I were to kind of recess the public hearing?
Mhm.
Or do you need 10 minutes on your own?
Just give me 10 minutes.
We'll take a 10-minute recess. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. we're back from that recess. Thank you guys for your patience in this matter. Are there any comments from the applicant at this time?
Staff would like to present an amendment to the request. We are proposing an amendment to section 2B, 3B, and the table, and the regulation would read as only garages and carports may be located in the front yard as long as they are set back 30 feet from the road right-of-way with the issuance of a special use permit. So we added that last section requiring a special use permit, and that would be for the section that has lots between 2 and 4 acres, and then lots that are greater than 4 acres.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any citizens wishing to comment on this matter at this time? Seeing none, any questions from the Board of Commissioners as we amended? I will declare the public hearing closed. I will ask the county attorney to summarize the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Prior to the amendments, the planning board unanimously recommended approval of the zoning text amendment, finding it to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to approve.
I will take a motion to approve as amended, the motion to approve text 007 and rescind to 2022-065, and that's as amended on the approval from the board. That Commissioner Hovis makes that recommendation of the motion, seconded by Commissioner Kieger. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stetzer, will you provide a consistency statement?
Yes, sir. The proposed text amendment is consistent with Goal 6 of the comprehensive land use plan, as allowing larger accessory structures on larger lots will improve the image of Gaston County to current and potential residents.
Thank you, sir. This concludes tonight's public hearings. Do I hear approval for the business agenda and any revisions or items pulled?
Approved as written.
Commissioner Hovis made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Fraley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Approval of the minutes. You were provided a draft of minutes of the regular meeting of 10:25, rescheduled meeting of 11:10, organizational meeting of 12:05, regular meeting 12:13. Are there any revisions that need to be or here be approved for the minutes as presented?
Motion to
Motion
approve.
made by Commissioner Worley,
Motion to
seconded by
approve as
Commissioner
presented.
Cloninger. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Unanimous, Madam Clerk. The next item, citizens' recognitions, are a portion of tonight's board agenda is set aside for the purpose of allowing citizens an opportunity to offer any comments and suggestions. This comment period is not intended to require the commission or staff to answer any questions or provide a response. Questions that require response shall be answered as soon as possible through the county manager's office. Citizens' recognition tonight will be limited to 3 minutes. As I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name and address. The citizen signed up to speak is Mike Meeks. Mr. Meeks.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here just to give you an update on the $100,000 that was granted to the Veterans Release Fund. And I got involved in it at the end of August. So I'm just going to give you some numbers that I helped out on as far as veterans' rent and mortgage payments, motel stay, utilities, and I also opened up a pantry to feed veterans out of the Bessemer City Crisis Center. First, my name is Michael Meeks Sr. I'm president of the Crisis Center in Bessemer City and also the chairman of the Gaston County Veterans Council. That's why I don't speak a lot, because I forget stuff. Okay. But anyway, the money was put to good use. We had, when I started, it was 19 people staying in the Motel 6 and the Econo Lodge. As of right now, it's 0 people in the hotels. 3 people I had put in detox. 2 just disappeared on me. The remainder of those were put into apartments and rental houses. So that's where that money was used for. Okay, utilities for September, October, and November, I spent about $21,000 on helping people to pay their utilities. The pantry, I started a pantry in Bessemer City for veterans could come by once a month to pick up food. So that's going on. So that will be eliminated from this program because I'm getting a lot of donations coming in from the different veteran organizations in the county. So I'm going to eliminate that from the money that was being used. So that won't, if we get more money, then that won't be a part of it. I had one guy needed his car repaired so he can get to and from work. I verified that he was working, so I got his car repaired. And then in September, I spent about $6,000 for 6 people to pay their mortgages. One guy the COVID kind of affected him, so I talked to his rental people that he was his mortgage company, and they said that they was working out a plan for him to do that. He was 6 months behind, and I paid 4 months to get him back where he started. I talked to the gentleman a month ago. He's back on target. He's really appreciative of the help. I'm having a meeting with the majority of the people that I help tomorrow night with dinner at the Crisis Center to get the feedback, because I will be coming back asking for more money. So I kind of like wrapped all this up except for January. I have about $4,000 left, and probably by next Wednesday that'll be gone, and that'll be your $100,000 that was given to the Veteran Release Fund.
Mr. Meeks, thank you for stepping up in this matter. I know you were brought in kind of on a different type of basis, so thank you for working with us, and also thank you for caring.
Right.
Our veterans are our strongest assets that we have coming back into societal needs, and so we want to thank you for your willingness to be able to be a part of that. So thank you, sir.
So if I come back, will I get more money? Just kidding.
I do appreciate the letting us know where that has been spent as well. And future we will discuss amongst us with the county manager. But thank you again,
And
sir.
I will do a final report and pass it back
to Mr. Roten.
Mr. Who?
Roten, Matt.
Yeah. But okay. So I'll have it wrapped up next week. Okay. All right.
Thank you. I need approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? No items pulled. Commissioner Hovis is the motion.
You
sir?
didn't ask to pull any items yet.
I asked that earlier, but go ahead.
Oh, you did? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir. If
I definitely want to pull I, and then I have a question we can probably answer on K.
Okay.
What is the money that we'd be approving on K used for? It's $3,000 miscellaneous for the Public Health Family Planning Clinic.
Once again, that was I and K, correct, sir?
Yeah, the question was on K right now.
All right, K. Let me get this.
Maybe, does the manager?
Item K is DHS to accept and appropriate miscellaneous funds received from the upstream. Is that the one, sir?
Yes.
Upstream organization for the Public Health Family Planning Clinic.
Yes, I can answer that. That's for educational materials within the clinic. I'll confirm that while you're discussing the other item, but I'm 95% sure that it's education materials.
Okay.
The other one you talked about
Aye.
was I. We will be pulling that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and start and we'll come back. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with item I pulled from the agenda? Motion made by
Second.
Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Keeger. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. I also want to point out the importance of the proclamation for the month of January that was adopted on tonight's consent agenda was the Human Trafficking Awareness Month proclamation. That'll be forwarded to the department. Next item is legislative request. Do I hear a motion to approve the legislative agenda for the 2023 session with the North Carolina General Assembly?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Kieger. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
One item pulled from the consent agenda was item I. Commissioner Kieger pulled this. Commissioner Kieger, do you wish to just speak about it, or do you want to?
Well, I just have a couple questions,
Okay.
really, and a comment or two. To appropriate the $114,000, is that the total for benefits and everything?
Yes, sir.
And I guess I've got to ask, I know that we spend some money with litigators outside the county office. Is this going to eliminate that altogether?
No, we spend, I went back several years in looking into this. We spend about a little over $500,000 a year on outside litigation expenses. That's not just lawsuits.
Is that including retainer?
No.
Okay.
That's through car accidents and that sort of thing, mostly handled through our third-party administrator. The idea is to bring in a portion of that, and I think we can adjust the valve on that however we want. I put in my proposal to you all that I envisioned in the first year, a new attorney would spend about a third of his time on that. If we saved an average of $250 an hour in legal fees, that comes out to about $165,000 a year. And so I wanted to get close to that being a self-pay sort of thing, and it would also give me the capacity with replacing Mr. Moore if he fully retires, and also having a focus on public safety with, we have a new elected sheriff, we'll have a new police chief soon. So those were my concerns, was bringing in outside litigation, succession planning, and public safety support.
All right, thank you for the response. But it's just rubbing me the wrong way with the growth of employees has exceeded the growth of the county. When I came on the board 25 years ago, there were 1,100 employees, and I think we're between 17 and 1,800. And I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not overspending on employees. I know we need more help in certain areas. I'm not sure that we have too much help in other areas, but it's just something I wanted to get out there to, you know, just to, for my own well-being, I want to know that we're getting the bang for the buck, we're not overspending, we're not having too many employees. And I know about 5 years ago we had an assessment, the company out of Colorado told us that we were pretty efficient. And I hope that stands true now. But so are we going to eliminate the contract for the outside, you know, that what Jim Wyndham did and Martha?
Yeah, we don't have it on a specific contract. It's on an as-needed basis, but there'll be a substantial pullback from that.
I know over the years they were considered, I think the phrase was the deputy attorney. I remember over the years when it was just Chuck, and if Chuck couldn't be here, Jim Wyndham would show up.
Yes, sir.
And so that's going away.
Yes, generally speaking. There'll be some cases, if they had a specific expertise that we didn't in-house, I would still use them for things, but the first pullback will be from that area right there.
Okay, thank you.
I'll come back to make sure your question was answered. I had a question as well. I wanted to make sure that this will also free up you to do any type of litigation as well, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I want to do some of the litigation myself. It also frees me up to do some of the economic development work and cross-train with Chuck more before he retires.
I know when we were hiring an attorney, it was one of the questions, big questions that came up was, you know, could we find one to help public safety? I think before we kind of knew who you were that day, you know, we talked about, you know, could we bring 2 attorneys in? That was kind of the discussion, and there was a lot flying around that day for you, I know as well, Commissioner Kieger, when we were doing. But like I said, that was some of the discussion. So I want to make sure everything you had was covered in your answer for tonight. Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would direct this to County Attorney also. I know I've read your memo about these two positions. One would be an attorney position, correct, and the other was for
The paralegal, sir.
paralegal, that's right, paralegal. What will be the ongoing cost? This is just for the remainder of this budget year, correct, the $114,000?
Yes, sir.
What do you anticipate the cost to be in the new budget for these two new positions?
Yeah, for the remaining.
Yearly?
Yeah, the remaining fiscal year was the request I made. The next annual for the entire fiscal year comes out to about $273.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this matter?
If I could add a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Manager.
To address Commissioner Keeger's comment, I will look countywide and I can bring back some workload data and some information related to employees per capita against some of our benchmark peers. I'd be happy to do that. And I think the timing is good in anticipation of the budget.
I hate to, I'm gonna kind of say it's kind of slowed down for us a little bit, so I'm happy to hear where it was at one time. It was rampant. We got one a month when we were coming in here that we were having to look into, so I'm kind of happy for that right now. But I do like the idea that it gives us some flexibility to do some things differently. Any other discussion from the commission? Seeing none, motion was made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Keeger. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Well, I seconded the
I'm
consent
sorry.
agenda. I didn't second this.
Okay, so we need to go back and get a second then. Commissioner Hovis made the motion to approve this, seconded by Commissioner Fraley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson, I'm trying to see his hand.
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
May I follow up on item K before you move on?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have confirmed that in addition to my comments concerning education, it also includes training and development for reproductive health.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item is appointments. Commissioner Fraley.
I have several, Mr. Chairman. Child Fatality Prevention Team, Mr. Jamie McConnell, that's a reappointment. Council on Aging, Donna Hamill. Environmental Review Advisory Board, Mr. Jeff Howell Jr. And application for Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Mr. Billy Wackoviak.
Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Thanks.
Mr. Worley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 4 tonight also. Environmental Review Advisory Board, I'll make these all in one motion. Environmental Review Advisory Board, reappointment requested for Mr. Jason Cloniger. For the Planning Board, reappointment requested for Mr. Lee Brooks. Sarah Local Planning Committee, reappointment requested John B. Wilson. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, have an application that has been received from Kimberly Moore, and I would make those all in a motion. And
Motion made by Commissioner Worley, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Cloniger.
I have a new appointment. It's for Sarah Bruner to serve on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, known as the JCPC. And also, I would like to reappoint Angela Karchmer to Sarah, which is a local emergency planning committee known as LEPC.
Thank you, ma'am. Seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? You did great, young lady. So happy. Commissioner Hovis.
Mr. Chair, I only have one new appointment. It's Paul Lowrance to the Animal Care and Enforcement Advisory Board.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Keeger. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Keeger.
Reappointment of Randy Vincent to the Planning Board.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Johnson, do you have any Appointments, ma'am.
I have three. Council on Aging, I have an appointment for David Abernathy. Environmental Review Advisory Board, Steve Avery. And the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Tanner Jarrett.
Second those, Mr. Chair.
Seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any discussion? All in favor? It is, Commissioner Johnson? Obviously.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. I'm going to give three, and then I'll come back for one after this, just for pleasure of the board. Environmental Review and Advisory Board received a David R. Freeman. The Planning Board, reappointment for J.D. Sadler, and Sarah Local Planning, Reverend Robert C. Sapp.
Second, Mr. Chair.
That is seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. I have one for the Animal Care Enforcement Advisory Board. I received an application which I want to act on, which is for Robert King. We've had a vacancy for some time for the Humane Society, which is not active right now. They can't get a quorum. I would like to dispose of the Humane Society and make it a public at-large seat, and that way I can appoint two people, Ms. Pamela Bingham, to that. Does anybody have any objection to that? With no objections, we have a seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. We got some full boards back here somewhere. Fireman's Trust Fund, Mr. Bobby Lutz, reappointment requested from Trianata.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Keeger. Any discussion? All in favor? The next one is Partners Behavioral Health Management Partners Team. Commissioner Bob Hovis requesting appointment. I'm sorry. Seconded by Commissioner Fraley. Any discussion? All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hovis, for stepping up on that. I think there's already two seats we have now with that. So, reports. Commissioner Fraley. Commissioner Worley. Commissioner Cloninger.
Yes, I wanted to mention that on January the 11th, I attended a very special ceremony honoring our local hometown heroes here in Gaston County, which was sponsored by Tyndall Ford. In fact, Natalie Tyndall has presented these awards for the past 6 years, and the recipients included our retired Sheriff Alan Cloninger from Gaston County Sheriff's Office, Eddie Lovingood with Gastonia City Police Department, Wayne Massagee with Gaston County EMS, Leon Matthews with Gastonia Fire Department, and Jeffrey Thomas with Gaston County Police Department. And each recipient truly made a difference here in our community, and thank you all for a job well done. I also attended on January the 13th the Martin Luther King ceremony, which was sponsored by the town of Dallas. And Reverend Dorothy Guthrie was a keynote speaker with Dr. Darrell Jackson, recited I Have a Dream. And then I also attended another event that Commissioner Hovis is going to talk about in his report. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hovis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Cloninger and I both had the auspicious opportunity to attend Gaston Together's Unity Award with our two recipients for this year. You know, we have a lot of folks who do a lot of good things, and none of it is within their normal bailiwick. And we're very blessed in Gaston County to have people to give of their time, their talents, to look out and reach out and become a part of an inclusive community. Gaston Together has put the Unity Awards together for quite a few years, and I was just glad to have the opportunity to speak and give a brief welcome. They had a little bit of mic problems, but most of us were loudmouths and didn't have a problem with that. And that was held at the DSS Auditorium. And just letting everyone else know that on Thursday of this week, there will be a groundbreaking in Bessemer City for the official kickoff of Wind Development's Osage redevelopment program for that 140 plus apartments there on Alabama Avenue and 12th Street. That project has been floating around before I became elected a county commissioner more than 5 years ago. I have been a part of making 3 motions by this board to support that activity and that information. And that's at 1:30 on Thursday. Anyone wishing to attend, you're obviously more than welcome. But that's going to be over a $38 million project right in the middle of downtown Vesper City. Huge opportunity, huge opportunity. And at the same time, I was able to attend with Dr. Eagle and other staff members, Director Lampier and others, the kickoff of the rapid response vehicle that we have now positioned at the Kings Mountain Fire Department to service the western portion of the county, that area on Canterbury Road and down into Northwoods, and that area that has the longest service response time in the county. It's a great to be able to cooperate with our fellow municipalities. We have quite a few Gaston County residents who live within the municipal city limits of the city of Kings Mountain. And Kings Mountain has been nothing but affording and easy to work with. And those citizens pay our taxes just like everyone else in Vesper City and Ranlow and Stanley and all the other municipalities. So we can't really ignore them. And this is going to give us the opportunity to service that area. At the same time, continue to build our municipal interactions with other municipalities. There's a period of time that municipalities were looked like with the counties that we were the Hatfields and they were the McCoys. I think those days have transcended. We don't have a lot of duplication of services. We actually work very harmoniously together and we complement each other. And I'm just proud to be able to be there and to support Director Lampier because this was his initiative and his vision and his effort. And I applaud him and the GEMS team for doing that. We got a lot of good things going on in Gaston County that people don't really get to see. And as you had said earlier, we need to showcase more of those good news items, and hopefully in the year to come we can do that. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Keeger.
Not this evening.
Commissioner Johnson.
No reports this time.
I think since the last time we met, we got to see the inductees of what came forth in the election, and the High Sheriff is here, but I wanted to introduce his Chief Deputy, Scott Wyatt. If you'll just, that's our good spotlight for today is Scott Wyatt. If you guys don't know him, comes with years of service with the Sheriff's Department before he went to Belmont and back. So thank you for returning, sir. And I don't know which one's the good people, the Hatfields or the McCoys, but I want to make sure we get that.
I didn't put the black or white hat on either one.
County Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I have a good news item to share a progress report on. As you all may remember, back at the very beginning of the pandemic, you all approved funds to expedite the construction of a new child advocacy center, and the city church donated the land to do that. That has been under construction since mid-2021. We did have to pause construction because of some supply chain issues for roughly a month and a half back in December, but we're back up and running and anticipate that construction and the punch list to be completed by March 1st. So I wanted that to be on your radar. We are planning a grand opening or ribbon cutting ceremony sometime in the time frame of late April. We'll be coordinating with Donna to get that on your calendars, but we're really excited about the fact that that's almost complete. So I wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
County Attorney's report.
Thank you, sir. I have 2 brief things. One, I forgot to mention during the questions you all asked me about the position, is we will track the number of hours we do internal litigation. So I'll be able to report back to you on an annual or semi-annual basis the exact savings, if there are some, and there will be some. There will be significant. So we'll be able to track that exactly. The second thing is, tomorrow we'll be finishing up an anonymous survey. The County Attorney's Office sent a survey to all of our department heads in the county and about 80 other critical stakeholders to ask about responsiveness, quality of legal work, and whether they use the County Attorney's Office more or less than in the past. I'll be sending those results. I'm going to see them myself first. But you all should expect an email sometime tomorrow with those results. I'd like to send those to all the board members so you can also have an idea of feedback to the County Attorney's Office. If that generates feedback from you to me, I'd be interested in that as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters need to come before this board at this time? Just so you note, we voted tonight under the consent agenda to move February 14th, which is Valentine's Day for all you ladies and gentlemen, the work session to February 28th to precede the regular meeting at 6 p.m. here in the Harley B. Gaston Forum. So that, please take note of that for all of you people who want to send me Valentines, especially you two. This concludes our meeting for tonight. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please present those to 704-866-3196 to Miss Donna S. Buff. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Worley, seconded by Commissioner Kieger. All in favor? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Good night, onesies.